Hi, I'm Juan José Álvarez Tostado Rios. I hope you are having a good day and enjoying the International Materials Research Congress in its 2023 version. I am going to defend you this poster of the study of the feasibility of the stabilization with ordinary cement of gold mine tailings from the Reserva Ecológica de Nuestra Señora del Mineral, Sinaloa. In Mexico, the mine industry is an important economic activity as there are many mining districts like Chihuahua, Coahuila, Durango, Estado de México, Querétaro, San Luis Potosí, Sonora, Zacatecas, and Sinaloa. And it's precisely in the last one where the closed mine Mineral de Nuestra Señora de la Candelaria, actually Reserva Ecológica de Nuestra Señora del Mineral, is localized exactly in COSALÁ, Sinaloa. That mine is property of the Universidad Autónoma de Sinaloa and it contains thousands of cubic meters of mine tailings derived from the exploitation of gold and silver in the zone. At this moment, the mine tailings are causing serious environmental problems because of the content of heavy metals. The different contaminants presented in these tailings are being absorbed by the soil and dragged downstream, and that can provoke acute and chronic intoxications affecting directly and indirectly the health of the population and the ecosystem. So, with that information is proposed as objective the evaluation of the gold mine tailings before and after being stabilized with cement to evaluate their engineering applications, and for that, mortars were designed with water cement ratios of 0.35, 0.40, and 0.45 and 70% of tailings, which were characterized as 7, 14, and 28 days of curing. All of this with the scope that the hypothesis is that the toxins are going to be trapped in mortar matrix and reaching the requirements to be considered a material for construction. The way we did this was taking the gold mine tailings from the mine in COSALÁ, Sinaloa, and then characterized physically by the ASTM, determining its granulometry, bulk density, impurities, density, absorption, and fines percent. And chemically, it was analyzed by XRD, XRF, and SEM. The mortar mixes were prepared using the ACI 211.1 method, and the samples were prepared and tested its compression. Some fragments of the test were taken to make petrographs, and then they were analyzed by XRD and SEM EDS to observe the hydration process and phases of interest, to prove the heavy metal of the gold mine tailings were in the cement sand matrix and the compression resistance were inside the stipulated in the Mexican construction normativity. The results were satisfying. The X-ray fluorescence XRF showed that effectively the gold mine tailings were contaminated with heavy metals like lead, Pb, arsenic As, and barium Ba, exceeding the indicated in the NOM 052 Semarnat 2005 for dangerous residues and NOM 141 Semarnat 2003 for maximum allowable limits of contaminants in gold mine tailings. So yeah, there was this material contaminating the ecosystem and affecting the health of the surrounding people as we supposed. And the X-ray diffraction demonstrated the presence of the phases of lead, silicon oxide, and calcium carbonate, being these last two of good behavior with cement, and to refer to known by XRF and XRD, the SEM EDS showed that the same chemistry, but the relevance of the SEM was the mapping of the mortar of cement sand gold mine tailings at 70% of the fine aggregate weight that showed that the heavy metals were in fact trapped in the mortar matrix, so the mix was fulfilling its objective of trapping the toxins in there, and with that the hypothesis was checked. Then the mortars were tested and we found, surprisingly, that the compression resistance surpassed by a lot the requirements of the Mexican normativity to be used as masonry in construction, fulfilling the hypothesis and the objective with properly. In conclusion, the X-ray diffraction indicates the presence of the phases developed in the hydration of cement in the CPO sand reference mortars and in the CPO sand gold mine tailings mortar systems. It can be observed in the SEM images the encapsulation of the heavy metals of the gold mine tailings inside the mortar matrix. The mapping supports the observed behavior. all the developed compression resistance surpassed the minimum permissible limits established by the Mexican normativity for structural masonry since the third day of hydration. Thank you for your attention.